Imagine you work, earn money, build a strong life. You have a wife you trust, a best friend you've been through everything with. And then one day you show up early and find them together. On your own yacht, in your own bed. Well, that's a great way to see how many years you've been living in self-delusion. So this isn't about me sitting and suffering. It's about me taking matters into my own hands and making sure they remember this lesson for the rest of their lives. Ready? Let's go then. I always believed in principles, in hard work, in honesty. If you build something from scratch, if you put in your soul, your strength, your life, it should stand strong. Business, family, friendship. But you know what's funny? All of that can collapse in an instant. Sometimes because of one betrayal. I was the kind of man they call self-made. A corporate attorney who clawed his way up from nothing and built a name for himself. 20 years ago, I had nothing but an old car, a law degree, and an iron will to succeed. Now, a prestigious law firm, a luxury home, a yacht, and so I thought a solid marriage. My wife's name was Lisa. Beautiful, charismatic, the kind of woman heads turned for. She knew how to be affectionate, intelligent, and, as I foolishly believed, loyal. We had been married for 15 years. And I thought what we had was more than just convenience. I thought it was love. Then there was Tom, my best friend. We met back in law school, built our firm together, weathered ups and downs. He was smart, sharp, knew how to make money. Confident, tall, athletic, the kind of guy people admired. Everyone saw us as an unbreakable team. We bought an office together, expanded our business together, celebrated our victories together. Hell, we even bought a yacht together. For family trips, he had said. Lisa and I, Tom and his wife Amy, we spent a lot of weekends out on the water. Evenings on deck, glasses of wine, watching the sunset, talking about life. It was picture perfect. And yet, funny how instincts work. Sometimes you feel something is off but push it down. Because it's easier to tell yourself you're just tired. You're imagining things. That's what I did. Until one day, everything changed. That day, I was supposed to be out of town for a negotiation. My flight was scheduled for the morning, but it got canceled. So I figured, why not turn it into a surprise? Take my wife out to dinner, give her the ring I bought the day before. She had been complaining that I worked too much, that she felt neglected. When I pulled up to the marina, it was past noon. I walked down the wooden docks, heard the water lapping against the hulls, smelled the salt in the air. My yacht rocked gently on the waves. I stepped inside and knew immediately something was wrong. The air was thick with expensive perfume, wine, and something else. Something unmistakably physical. Muffled voices. I stepped further in. And there, in the dim light of the master cabin, on my crisp white sheets, was my wife. Hair disheveled, lips swollen, naked. Above her, Tom. They didn't even hear me at first. And when they did, they didn't scramble to cover themselves. Didn't rush to explain. Tom froze, looked at me, cursed under his breath. Lisa looked straight into my eyes, and what I saw there wasn't fear. At that moment I understood, this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't the first time. This had been going on for a while. Did I yell? Attack him? Lose control? No. I stood there, watching, memorizing every detail. The way her breath hitched, the way she licked her lips, the way Tom looked away but didn't say sorry. I handled it the way I handled any unwinnable case in court. Coldly, without emotion. Well, I said, that explains a lot. And I walked out. I drove home in complete silence. No music. No phone calls. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to beg for explanations. I wasn't going to scream or punch walls like some heartbroken idiot. If they had been expecting that, if they had been waiting for a dramatic meltdown so they could twist the blame back onto me, tell me I had driven them to it, they were about to be very disappointed. The house was empty. Lisa was still on the yacht, probably cleaning up the evidence, erasing any traces of their little rendezvous, as if it would make a damn difference. I poured myself a drink and sat in my office, staring at the wall. My law degree hung there, framed in dark mahogany. Next to it, a photo of Tom and me at our firm's grand opening. Two young, ambitious men, full of fire and promise. We had built something great together. I grabbed a notepad and started making a list. Step 1. Protect my assets. Lisa and I had a prenup. When we got married, I wasn't rich yet, but I wasn't stupid either. The prenup was airtight, no alimony, no share of my business, no financial security once she was out of my life. The house was in my name. The cars, too. She had access to my money, but she owned nothing herself. That was about to become a problem for her. Step 2, cut Tom out. We had built our law firm together, yes, but I was the brains behind it. I brought in the biggest clients, handled the most important cases, made sure our reputation stayed pristine. Tom was good, but I was better. And without me, he was nothing. The firm's ownership was split 50-50ths on paper. But I had leverage, contacts, relationships, knowledge. I knew every crack in his armor, every skeleton in his closet. I knew about the clients he had lied to, the side deals he had made without reporting them, the questionable financial moves that could, if brought to the right authorities, sink his career overnight. And I was going to use every single one of them. Step 3. Make them watch it all crumble. I wasn't just going to leave them behind. I was going to make sure they felt every inch of the fall. Lisa had been comfortable for too long. The luxury vacations, the designer clothes, the effortless lifestyle of being the wife of a successful man. She had taken it all for granted, assumed it would always be there, assumed I would always be there no matter what she did. And Tom was about to lose everything he had worked for. His reputation, his income, his sense of security. I would take it all from him piece by piece until he had nothing left. But first, I needed to act normal. I needed them to think I was handling this like a reasonable man. I finished my drink, straightened my tie, and picked up my phone. I dialed Lisa. She answered after 2 rings. "Hey," she said, her voice cautious, testing the waters. "Where are you?" "Home," I said evenly. "Had an early flight back. Thought I'd surprise you." Silence. A long one. Finally, she exhaled. "I'm on my way." Lisa walked through the front door 20 minutes later, her expression carefully composed. Not guilty, not nervous, just measured. Like she was bracing herself for whatever version of me she expected to encounter. Angry husband? Devastated fool? A man so in love with her that he was willing to get over this betrayal? "Hey," she said, setting her purse on the counter. "You're back early." I nodded, watching her. She wasn't wearing the same dress she'd worn on the boat. She'd changed into jeans and a casual blouse, her hair pulled back into a simple ponytail. A clever move to make herself look innocent, normal. Like she hadn't just spent the day in the bed with my best friend on my boat. I didn't rise to the bait. The flight was cancelled. "I was out for a walk," she continued, her voice light, as if testing the waters. "I decided to stop at the dock for some fresh air." Fresh air. That's what we called it now. I nodded slightly, then stood up, stretching. "I'm tired. I think I'll go to bed early." Her eyebrows rose in surprise. She was bracing herself for an argument, maybe even a breakdown, but I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. "Okay," she said slowly. "Want me to make you something to eat?" I almost laughed at the absurdity of it, as if she hadn't just thrown away 15 years of marriage on some cheap affair behind my back. As if she still had the right to pretend she cared. "No," I said simply. "I'm fine." By morning I had a plan. The first step was already in motion, troubling her, keeping her guessing. That hesitation in her voice, that caution in her speech, it was fear creeping in. Good. The second step was Tom. I needed to see him, not to confront him, not to fight, but to lay the groundwork for what was to come. I walked into our office at noon, like any other day. The staff greeted me as I passed, their smiles routine. Business as usual. If only they knew. Tom was in his office, hunched over his desk, going over paperwork. When he looked up and saw me standing there, his face barely moved. No guilt, no shame. Just a quick, assessing glance, assessing me like, "Lisa." He straightened up. "Didn't expect you to be back so soon." I closed the door behind me. "Yeah, there's been a change of plans." Silence. Heavy. He was waiting. I walked to the window, looking out at the cityscape. "Lisa and I had a good talk yesterday," I said casually. I heard him suck in his breath sharply, just for a split second. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but I did. "Oh," he said, keeping his voice light. I turned to face him, smiling just enough to make him uncomfortable. "Yeah, we've been together 15 years, you know. Built a life together." He nodded, carefully neutral. "Sure." I let the silence stretch, watching him grip the edge of the table just a little tighter than necessary. Then I exhaled, shaking my head. Marriage is a funny thing. You think you know someone, but... I paused, letting the words hang in the air. He cleared his throat. "Look, man." But I raised my hand. "Don't." Not yet. Instead, I patted him on the shoulder as I passed him toward the door. We need a drink soon. Catch up. The next few weeks were a carefully orchestrated game of silence. I didn't confront Lisa. I didn't confront Tom. I let them stew in their own paranoia. I went to work like nothing had changed, came home, made small talk, even slept in the same house as my wife without once mentioning what I had seen. And that was what started to break them. Lisa was unraveling first. I could see it in the way she watched me, waiting for me to snap, waiting for the fight that never came. She'd cook dinner like always, ask how my day was, even try to start casual conversations about mutual friends. But she wasn't fooling me. She was nervous. Every time I walked into a room, she'd stiffen just a little, her eyes flickering with anticipation. Is this it? Instead, I started withdrawing money from our joint account. Not all at once, slowly, strategically. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. Just enough to make her notice. One evening, she finally brought it up. "Hey," she said over dinner, forcing a casual tone. "I noticed a couple of big withdrawals from our account." I sipped my wine. "Yeah." She hesitated, waiting for more. When nothing came, she pressed, "Something going on?" I set my glass down and met her gaze. Just preparing for the future. That was it. No explanation. No argument. Just a simple, weighted statement that left her sitting there, gripping her fork a little too tightly. Lisa liked control. She liked knowing things. And now, for the first time in our marriage, she had no idea what I was thinking. Tom, on the other hand, was slipping at work. The paranoia was eating at him, and it showed. I started catching him making mistakes, missing details in contracts, fumbling through client meetings, losing focus. A few of our senior partners noticed, too. "Tom seems off lately," one of them mentioned to me in passing. I just nodded. He's got a lot on his mind. We had a major corporate client, a billion-dollar account that I had secured, but technically it was under both our names. Tom had been handling most of the recent communications, and I knew he had been getting too comfortable, too careless. So I made a few calls. Quietly, discreetly. I spoke to the CEO personally, reassured him that I was still overseeing everything. Then I had our finance team run a deep audit of the firm's books. And there it was. A discrepancy. Nothing huge, nothing illegal, but enough of a red flag to raise concerns. A misfiled transaction. An unreported expenditure. Tom's signature was on it. Perfect. At the next board meeting, I brought it up. "Tom," I said, flipping the file onto the table. "Want to explain this?" He stiffened as he looked down at the papers. His face paled just slightly. "It's just a clerical error," he muttered, flipping through the documents. I nodded. "Maybe, but I've already spoken to the client. They're a little uneasy. Given the size of the account, they're considering pulling their contract." The room went dead silent. This was a big client. Losing them would be a disaster. Tom's head snapped up. "Wait, what? You talked to them?" "Had to," I said smoothly. "They were worried." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "You know how these things work. Trust is everything." I let the meeting continue, let him scramble, let him sweat under the gazes of the other partners. And then, just as everyone was leaving, I patted his back. "Tough break, man," I said quietly. "Maybe you just need a break. Clear your head." His eyes flickered with something between suspicion and desperation. "You trying to push me out?" I chuckled, shaking my head. "Come on, Tom. We're partners." But he didn't look convinced. And that was exactly what I wanted. Lisa cracked first. It was late, close to midnight, when she finally snapped. I was sitting in my office, sipping a glass of bourbon, going over some case files when she barged in. No knocking, no hesitation. Just pure, desperate energy. "We need to talk," she said, arms crossed, her breath unsteady. I glanced up, keeping my expression unreadable. "About?" Her eyes narrowed. "You know damn well about what." I leaned back in my chair, swirling the bourbon in my glass. "Then say it, Lisa. Say what's on your mind." "You've been acting weird," she said, forcing her voice into something softer, something almost concerned. "You're distant, withdrawn. I feel like," she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I feel like you're pulling away from me." I just watched her, let her squirm under the silence. "Look, if something's wrong, we should talk about it. We can fix it." I exhaled a quiet laugh. Fix it? That was funny. Setting my drink down, I folded my hands together and looked her dead in the eyes. "Lisa," Let's not insult each other's intelligence. We both know what's going on here. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do. She swallowed hard. Are you accusing me of something? Do I need to? I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen, Lisa. You're going to continue playing this little act, pretending nothing's wrong, hoping I'll be the one to break first. I picked up my glass, taking a slow sip before continuing. But I won't. I never will. And while you sit there, waiting for the explosion, I'll be making moves you won't see coming until it's too late. Her lips parted slightly, her breathing uneven. Go ahead, I said, my voice dropping to something low and lethal. Lie to my face again. Tell me you were running errands that day. Tell me you haven't been in bed with my best friend on my yacht. Tell me this hasn't been going on for months. I exhaled, shaking my head. You know, the worst part isn't even the betrayal. I looked up at her, my expression cold. It's that you both thought I was too stupid to figure it out. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. She had no right to cry, no right to act like the victim. I stood up, walking past her toward the door. Pack your things, Lisa. She spun around. Wait, what? You're leaving, I said simply. I won't make a scene. I won't tell your family. Hell, I won't even drag you through court. But you're done here. Your cards? Cancelled. Your name? Off every single account. I turned back to her, my expression blank. Let's see how much Tom is willing to support you when you don't come with a cushy lifestyle. Panic flashed across her face. She hadn't thought that far ahead. She started, but I cut her off. You made your choice, I said quietly. Now live with it. And then I walked out. Tom was next. I called for an emergency partner meeting at the firm. No warning, no explanation, just a simple message to all board members. Mandatory attendance. 8 a.m. sharp. By the time everyone was seated in the conference room, tension was already thick in the air. Tom walked in last, looking wary, on edge. I stood at the head of the table, my hands resting on the smooth wood. Gentlemen, I began, my voice calm, controlled. As you all know, trust and integrity are the foundation of this firm. Everyone nodded. Tom shifted in his seat. In the past few months, certain discrepancies have come to my attention. I turned my gaze to Tom. Financial oversights, client concerns, deals made without proper authorization. Tom's eyes widened just a fraction. Hold on. I raised a hand, silencing him. I've taken the liberty of compiling a full report. I gestured toward the associate next to me, who immediately handed out folders to every partner in the room. Inside, you'll find evidence of mismanagement, ethical breaches, and, in some cases, violations that could put this firm in serious legal jeopardy. Tom's fingers trembled as he scanned the files. This is bullshit, he stammered. These are minor errors. Errors that could cost us millions. I cut in smoothly. Errors that our clients will not overlook. I leaned forward. And errors that, unfortunately, all trace back to you. Tom looked around the room, eyes darting from face to face, searching for support. He found none. One of the senior partners cleared his throat. This is concerning. Another nodded. It's a liability. Tom turned to me, desperation creeping into his expression. We've been partners for years. You can't just. I can, I said, my voice like ice. And I already have. I slid a final document across the table, his resignation. Sign it, Tom. Walk away quietly. Save what little dignity you have left. His face turned red with rage. You son of a. I cut him off with a smirk. Careful. You're already in enough trouble. For a moment I thought he'd throw a punch. But then he looked around the room, saw the blank, indifferent faces of the other partners, and he knew. He had lost. He grabbed the pen, signed the paper with a shaky hand, then shoved it back at me. This isn't over, he muttered. I smiled. Oh, I think it is. And just like that, Tom was out. The house was empty when I got home. Lisa was gone. She had packed her things and left without a word, just like I knew she would. Not because she wanted to. No, Lisa wasn't the type to walk away voluntarily. She would have fought, begged, maybe even tried to manipulate me if she thought she had a chance. But after what I had done at the firm, after watching Tom's career collapse in real time, she finally understood. She wasn't dealing with the man she thought she had married. The patient, loyal, predictable husband. The man who would forgive. I poured myself a drink, taking a slow sip as I looked around. The silence in the house was different now. I checked my phone. No messages from Lisa, but there was one from Amy. Amy, Tom's wife, can we talk? Interesting. I took another sip of bourbon and typed back. Me sure. My office. 7 p.m. She showed up right on time. Amy had always been put together. Perfectly styled hair, elegant dresses, a quiet grace that made her seem untouchable. But tonight she looked different, tired and worn. She sat across from me, fingers gripping her purse tightly. I know everything, she said without preamble. I didn't react. Define everything. She let out a bitter laugh. Lisa, Tom, the affair. How long it's been going on. The lies. All of it. I studied her for a moment. How did you find out? She shook her head. I had suspicions for a while, but I didn't want to believe it. Then, after what you did at the firm, Tom came home furious, ranting about how you set him up, how you ruined his life. And in the middle of his meltdown, he let something slip. I raised an eyebrow. What did he say? Her voice was quiet. He said you were getting back at him. I exhaled slowly, nodding. So you put the pieces together. Amy let out a hollow laugh. Wasn't hard. I checked his phone while he was passed out drunk. Saw the messages from Lisa. The meetings, the weekend work trips. The times I thought I was just being paranoid. Her expression hardened. Turns out I wasn't paranoid. I was just married to a liar. I leaned back in my chair, watching her. So, what do you want, Amy? She met my gaze, her eyes colder than I'd ever seen them. To help you finish what you started. I didn't speak for a long moment. Go on. She set her purse down, exhaling slowly. Tom's ruined. He lost his position, his credibility, and once word gets out about the financial discrepancies, no firm will touch him. She smiled slightly. I know you made sure of that. I gave a small shrug. He did it to himself. She nodded. And Lisa? She won't last long on her own. She's never had to fend for herself. No job, no savings, no security. And Tom? He's too selfish to take care of her when he has nothing left. She was right. Lisa had spent years living in comfort, convinced she'd always have someone to fall back on. Amy leaned forward slightly. I'm filing for divorce. I have proof of Tom's infidelity, financial mismanagement, and I know exactly where to hit him where it really hurts. Her lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. And I figured, since we have mutual enemies, maybe we should work together. Amy had been collateral damage in all of this just like I had, and now she wanted justice, maybe even revenge. I respected that. I raised my glass to cleaning up the mess. Amy smirked, clinking her glass against mine, to making them pay. And just like that, the final phase of my plan was in motion. 2 months later, everything had fallen exactly into place. Lisa was out of my life. The divorce had been finalized in record time. No drawn-out fights, no legal battles. The prenup saw to that. She left with exactly what she came in with, nothing. No house, no money, no comfortable lifestyle. She tried to fight, of course. Tried to play the victim, to paint me as the cold-hearted husband who abandoned her. But the problem with liars is that they don't know when to stop. She spun too many stories, got caught in her own contradictions, and in the end, even the people who once admired her saw the truth. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was staying in a rundown apartment on the other side of town. Jobless, friendless, waiting for Tom to come through for her. But Tom had his own problems. After I forced him out of the firm, Amy moved in for the kill. She filed for divorce, took half of everything, and then, just to twist the knife, she went public. Tom always cared about his image. He built his career on charm, on being the guy everyone trusted. So when the details of his betrayal came out, the affair, the shady financials, the fact that he had stabbed his best friend in the back, clients started pulling out. His reputation was in free fall. One of my new business partners, a connection I made after cutting Tom loose, secured a major client for our firm. The same billion-dollar account that Tom had been so sure he could handle alone. The moment the contract was signed, I sent him a message. Me, lost another one. Huh? Tough break. He didn't respond. He didn't have to. I knew exactly how he felt. Defeated. Powerless. Just like I had felt the day I found them on my yacht. One evening, about a week later, Amy and I met for drinks. She looked different, lighter, free. The divorce had done that for her. Tom's miserable, she said, swirling her wine. I heard he's been crashing at a friend's house since I took the house in the settlement. She smirked. He's drinking too much. Angry all the time. I don't think he's spoken to Lisa in weeks. I chuckled. She was never part of his long-term plan. Just something new. Now she's just another problem he can't afford. Amy leaned back, studying me. And you? What's next? I exhaled slowly, looking out at the city skyline. I had spent months tearing everything down, dismantling the lies, cutting out the rot, reclaiming my life. And now it was time to start building again. I moved forward. Good answer. And you? Same. I unlocked my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found Lisa's number. My finger hovered over it for a second before I clicked it. Not to call. To delete. Gone. Then Tom. Gone. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and was about to pull out when a sharp knock on my window startled me. Amy. I rolled the window down. Change your mind about that drink? I joked. Her expression was serious. Too serious. You need to come with me, she said. I frowned. Amy, what? She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. Lisa's in the hospital. A beat of silence. I stared at her, processing. What? Amy swallowed hard. She tried to kill herself. Lisa was many things. Selfish, manipulative, deceitful, but suicidal? No. She loved attention, yes. She loved drama. But this didn't fit. Unless, I met Amy's gaze. She left a note, didn't she? Amy nodded. And you're not going to like what's in it. This wasn't over. Not yet. I walked into the hospital an hour later, my heart pounding in my chest. The sterile scent of disinfectant filled the air. The fluorescent lights too bright, too harsh. A nurse directed me to Lisa's room. Amy walked beside me, quiet, tense. When we stepped inside, I saw her. Lisa. She was hooked up to monitors, and 4 in her arm, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. Her eyes flickered open, and when she saw me, she smiled. Not a broken, defeated smile. No, something else. Something dangerous. I froze. Every instinct in my body screamed at me that something was wrong. And then she spoke. You played your game well, she whispered, voice weak but laced with something sinister. But you forgot one thing. I took a slow step forward. What's that? Her lips curled slightly. Check your accounts. My breath caught. I pulled out my phone, my fingers moving fast, logging into my bank, my investments, my business holdings. And then, everything inside me went cold. The numbers. They were wrong. Money was missing. Not just missing, gone. Millions. My hands clenched into fists as I turned back to her. What the hell did you do? Lisa let out a soft, rasping laugh. Oh, sweetheart. Her eyes gleamed with something terrifying. Did you really think I'd go down without a fight?